Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into Moving Forward with Football, a Zoom webinar here presented by the Middle Tennessee State University Department of Intercollegiate Athletics. Chip Walters here from the Blue Raider Network, and two panelists today. That will be head football coach Rick Stockstill and Director of Athletics Chris Massaro. And fellas, I see that Coach Stock has he's got a little sand between his toes there, and virtually at least. But hey, it's a good thought for today, right?
Keep your mind fresh.
Exactly, no question about that. Chris Massaro is at Burrow Beach over at his house right now. Chris, how are you doing? How are your family?
I'm doing great, Chip. I wish I was kind of in Stock's background.
Well, no kidding. And I guess Rick, how's with both of you guys? You guys have had family that has been scattered about the country, and I know at one point everybody kind of got called back in. But how's everybody doing? Where are they at right now?
You talking about my personal family?
Yeah,
everybody's good. Brent's in Tampa, doing the same thing we're doing here, but he's good. And then Sarah and Emily are obviously Emily's out of school now with that deal. So, but Emily and Sarah are good. My dad's good. Sarah's mom and dad are good. Everybody's good.
All right, Chris, what about your folks?
Well, we're all doing okay. I've got 3 children in my house right now. So Lainey's lives in Chicago, and she's able to work from home. So she decided to come down to Tennessee and do her job from here. And then Ben and Rachel completed their college semesters here at the house. And then my son, Hank, my oldest son, works in Pennsylvania for a factory that makes small airplane engines and drones. And he's been working up there, but I think this is, he's just now starting a furlough. So he's feeling a little bit of the effects and the impact, the economic impact of COVID-19.
Yeah, and that there are a lot of folks that have that. As we get started today, Chris, you wanted, this was your idea to put this on and be able to react one-on-one with fans and have them right there. Kind of give folks the genesis of the idea and what you hope to accomplish with these over the next few months.
Well, and really the number one question is that everybody's asking, and nobody knows kind of the answer is definitively in what form, but will there be football? And so I just want to tell our fans and our audience that yes, that we're going to do everything in our power to play football. That we want to play football. That's a big desire, and also our neighboring conferences are all in the same mode. So we're going to do everything we can to play football while keeping our student athletes healthy. I mean, that's the number one concern, and also our fans and patrons healthy as well. So working through all kinds of scenarios for that, but really wanted to reassure everyone that we're working hard towards football, and we're looking forward to kickoff on September 5th. Until somebody tells us differently, that's what I'm telling our staff and everybody to plan for. That our first game's in Durham, North Carolina versus Duke, and that should be our plan right now.
Stock, over the last couple of weeks, and we hear from the pundits from around the country, and still there's still more questions than answers out there for everybody. But from the things that I'm reading and seeing, there is the confidence level of playing a normal football season beginning Labor Day weekend seems to be higher and higher. And is that what you're seeing and feeling as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Chip. I think that throughout the conference, the people that I've talked to at other schools, they're starting to getting a plan to bring their athletes back sometime in June. You see NFL teams starting to open up their facilities a little bit now. So the optimism, the confidence, everything is at a higher level now than what it was, like you said, a month ago. And everybody's excited, looking forward to it. Our players are, they start seeing and reading that kind of stuff. And, so they're calling and all that and talking to them. So everybody's getting excited because of, just the positivity of everything that's gone on here the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Chris, today the Division I Council is voting on allowing voluntary workouts on campus. Do you see that if that is successful and would allow that, I guess, starting right after or June 1, I guess, would that be a big step in your mind?
That's a big trigger, Chip, as well. So I think, as Coach Stock said, that there's a desire across the country to start bringing some athletes in and you know, and probably stage them in, because there's a lot of different reasons for it, and obviously to get in condition and stuff to be able to play their sport, but also the mental health. I mean, so they can get back into more of their normal routine and do what they love to do, and those kind of things. So as soon as we can safely slide that in and provide protections to minimize risk, I think the better off we'll be. So we've been in constant contact with Dr. McPhee, and he's been great, and his administrative team's been great. So we need to do it in conjunction with kind of the reopening of campus as well.
Stock is when that happens, do you feel, I would imagine you feel as a head football coach that if you get your guys here, that's, you know, and everybody is, I don't know what the testing procedures will be, but once you get them all here together, does that make you feel like they're probably in a better place where they're all together with our medical people on site and all of our training people, all of that? Chris, do you feel that way?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's a really important aspect, Chip. And we are going to do temperature tests every day. That's part of our plan. Anybody entering the Murphy Center, particularly in the summer months, employees, student athletes, we'll have temperature checks. We'll have face coverings in the public hallways and those kind of things. And our strength and conditioning coaches and trainers, that they'll have facial coverings as well. So we're going to do everything we can to protect ourselves, protect our employees, protect our student athletes. But I feel like our weight room, we can do a better job of managing it and social distancing than if these guys were out working out in Atlanta at some facility or wherever it might be, because we've got our trainers and strength people right there, and we can limit our numbers very easily.
We'll get into some audience questions here, and we already have more than a handful that have come in already, and we really appreciate that, and well over 100 folks watching right now. This is from Leah, and it's for Coach Stock. When the players do return to campus, what do you feel will be the hardest part of getting them prepared for Game 1?
That's a good question. You know, they've done a great job since they left here at the 1st of March when they went home for spring break. Matt Hickman has sent them weekly and daily workouts. Obviously, they've had to use their imagination to create some weight. But as far as running and those sort of things, they've done a great job from that standpoint. So I think the big thing is probably more the strength part of it. The conditioning, I think we've got plenty of time. If we can get them back here, you know, sometime in June, that we can get them in a condition state where they can run. I worry a little bit about just their strength because they probably haven't been eating very good and they haven't had access to weights, heavy weights, for, you know, close to 2 months.
Chris, for you from Richard, how has the leadership of Conference USA been in guiding or helping member schools during the COVID-19 period?
I'm sorry, Chip, was that to me?
Yes, to you.
Yeah, it's been terrific. The Judy McLeod, our commissioner, has done a great job. We as ADs meet really we have Zoom calls at least 3 days a week, and then we've divided ourselves into the subcommittees. So there's a lot of information sharing of what's going on. Obviously, nobody's been through this before, and so we're able to know what's happening through our conference at other schools. And almost as importantly, what's happened nationally, that we've got representation on national committees like the AD at Marshall's on the football oversight committee, and they've had a key role in this pandemic and setting up some legislation and those kind of things. And Judy McLeod sits on the basketball oversight committee, and Lisa Campos, who's the AD at UT San Antonio, is on the women's basketball oversight committee. So we're able to draw on the national dialogue as well as the conference dialogue. So there's been a huge cooperative spirit between all the schools nationally, regionally, and conference-wide as well.
Coach Stock, this is for you. How are you staying in touch with players, coaches, and recruits at this time?
We have a staff meeting every morning by Zoom. So I meet with our staff every day. We've done that, from the very beginning. So we've communicated with them. Then our offense and defensive staffs, they'll have Zoom meetings with each other as we start to implement, what we're going to do from a philosophical standpoint, schematic standpoint. And then they have Zoom meetings, individual position meetings, coaches with their players, offense and defense as a whole. And then I tried a team meeting by Zoom, but trying to get 115, it was too hard. So I broke the team down into 7 groups, and then I'll have a Zoom or FaceTime meetings with those 7 individual groups at various times. And then from a recruiting standpoint, normally you're allowed 1 phone call from April 15th to May 31st. The NCAA has extended that now where it's unlimited through the month of June. So we're able to call kids a bunch now. The bad thing is, not being able to get them on your campus, not being able to have camps this summer. But to be honest with you, I've probably watched more film, high school film, this time of the year than ever, because you don't have the ability. You can't say, well, we'll go watch him in the spring and see how he looks, or we'll get him to camp and see how he looks. So we lost those capabilities. So our staff has done a really, really good job as far as evaluating recruits on film.
Well, that answered a question from Tyler Pelham from GoMiddle.com. He also had a real quick one. What about camps? Anything going on with camps this summer?
Well, there definitely won't be any in June because the NCAA has made the month of June. And I think, but I'm not 100%, and I think there's still a vote that they may open up something in July. But my personal opinion, what I told our conference people in our meetings this week is that I would not be in favor of it just because I wouldn't want to bring in 150, 200, 300 people that you don't really know about where they've been to your campus, and now something happens and now there's a setback with your team as far as being able to move forward and being ready to prepare for this season. So I doubt we'll have camps at all in July, but I don't think that's been finalized yet.
Chris, to wrap up Tyler's question, he has this is a very important part of a football Saturday. Have you heard about any of the plans for the Band of Blue?
Yeah, and again, we're preparing as normal. We haven't gotten down to those kind of details that in terms of the Band of Blue and kind of what our half times may look like and those kind of things. I think that evaluation will probably occur in another month as we get further into the pandemic and kind of down to our details. Obviously, they're a critical component to our atmosphere. Just students in general are really important to us. And so to me, the students and the Band of Blue have our highest priority in terms of being able to accommodate their needs as well.
Chris, from Chris Vanini, National College football writer for The Athletic. Uh, are you concerned about having a shortened season or eliminating non-conference games, and also the impact on MTSU athletics? Because we're seeing some schools around the country making some drastic moves at this point.
Yeah, and the non-conference schedules uh, is kind of up for some national debate and those kind of things that we're kind of interesting because the most important non-conference game we probably have financially is our Yukon game, which is in November. And so I think that may help us because if all of a sudden you lose September and you keep your games kind of intact going forward, we would make some allowances for that. That the conference, we've not had detailed talks about it, but one of the thoughts is that those of you that are playing your conference schedule, your non-conference schedule embedded into your conference schedule, to go ahead and allow them to play, and those would count in your conference standings. And so if we did that, then UConn would count as a conference game, and we would also have a guarantee money as well. So we'll see if that happens. There's so many scenarios floating around that it's hard to nail one, but the scenario that we know best right now is that football season will be starting on September 5th.
Have a question here. I guess either one of you can take this. From Patrick, how are you monitoring student athlete mental health and ensuring they're in a good place mentally through this very difficult and unsure transition?
I think that's a great question, and it's a priority because none of these kids have ever experienced this, obviously. What they're also experiencing, which sometimes I think we forget about, is they're all displaced. They're all at home, and some of their parents have gotten let go at work, lost their job. Maybe they don't have, all their siblings have now had to come home. Maybe there's not enough places for them to sleep, to get a good night's sleep. Maybe there's not enough food for them to eat. So there's so many of those type scenarios that as a coach, you got to be cognizant of, or anybody you've got to be cognizant of and sympathetic to. So I just, I'm in daily contact with all these guys, whether it's a text, a call, a Zoom, whatever it is, but I'm in daily contact with them. And that's just one of the things I ask them. It's not is everything okay? And they say, yeah, I'm straight. That's standard answer. It's, how you doing? How's your mom? How's your dad? Are you sleeping? Are you eating? How do you feel about this? And try to give them some positive hope also, because 5 weeks ago, they were never going to play football again. They were never going to come back to college. There was so much negativity out there. Now it's starting to be more positive. So just to try to keep their mental state, giving them hope, something to believe in, and just staying in daily contact with them about, everything other than just football.
And Chip, that's one of our big worries, and we probably won't be able to judge that till the student athletes come back to campus to see the depths of it. And we talk about it in every coach's meeting, and I know every coach is stressing that with their student athletes. And one of the things that I've stressed to the coaches is to make sure you do have constant contact, that they still feel like they belong to something, even though they're isolated, that they still belong to a group, they still belong to MTSU, they still belong to us, and that we're all in the same boat together, and try to use that as a unifying fact. But that's a big worry of ours here at MTSU, and also that's part of the national dialogue as well.
Chris, we have a question here from Chris Harris of News 4 Sports. He said we've seen different athletic programs across the country shutting down programs to try to cut costs. Are you able to avoid that or at MTSU, or could that be a possibility? How are you looking at budget issues going forward?
Yeah, and the budget's obviously the kind of been has been my number one priority really since the shutdown in March. And kind of as you try to gauge the economic impacts and how long it'll last and all of those kind of things, and what's going to happen to your revenue streams and those kind of things. So no one seems to know, and no one does know. And so we just have to work our way through it and manage all the ambiguity we have, to get through. But at the very last, the last item on our list is cutting sports. And so it's way down the pike. I don't see it happening. I see us being able to manage this thing and doing the best we can. And there's a lot of other options and a lot of other sacrifices we're going to make other than doing that.
From Paul here in town, Coach, has there been any consideration on using full plastic face shields as part of the football helmet? We've seen some guys, to keep you from getting poked in the eye, but now they could have a whole new use. What is the talk on equipment?
They haven't really discussed that yet in the committees and meetings I've been involved in. They haven't discussed it. About as far as maybe as close to that, they've talked about officials possibly wearing a mask, face covering, so I don't know if that's finalized or if that's official yet, but the mask that covers or a shield, the eye shield that we have, there'd be some logistics that somebody'd have to invent one, because the shape of the face mask down to bottom that covers your mouth is
Right.
completely different than that covers your eyes. So I don't know if we would have the ability to do that, but it hasn't been talked about either.
Chris, we're seeing different venues start to open back up. Your friend Kerry Tharp has a big race tonight down at Darlington, had pulled off one on Saturday that kind of got things back going again. In a hypothetical, if you are in a situation where people have to be spaced out in the stadium, have you put thought into that of how that might work? And by the way, that came from Jennifer and David McKnight. They always have great questions.
Well, it's good to hear from them. I miss seeing them. We're in the same neighborhood, but so shout out to them. To answer the question, yeah, we put a lot of thought into that and what the social distancing might look like and those kind of things. So we've got different models kind of built for the Murphy Center and for Floyd Stadium. James Kempfield, our assistant athletic director for ticketing, has been the point person on that in terms of how it might look if we spread everybody out at a proper social distancing space. And depending on how we do it, you could get from 6 to 10,000 in Floyd Stadium if you do it properly. What we don't know is kind of what the requirements will be if masks change different, if that can lessen your social distance and those kind of things inside the stadium. We've worked at some preliminary plans of having staggered entrances and exits, in terms of what could happen as people come into the games and those kind of things. The good news on that, Chip, is we don't necessarily have to invent that wheel. That I think there will be other sports entities that will be ahead of us in that. The NFL will probably play some games before we do, or have some announcements. Major League Baseball, if the NBA and the NHL kind of have any sort of public arenas. So we don't have to necessarily invent that, but we can take some of their ideas and apply them to us.
I heard Tony Barnhart the other day, and he talked about that college football could be the actual beneficiary of other sports opening up in July and August, and like exactly what you said. Coach Stock, for Monty Hale, with no spring practice this year, what is a realistic amount of time to get your team ready for a season opener at Duke?
Yeah, Monty, we talked about that a lot. And if you go back in the old days, college athletes used to go home in the summer. They got a job, they worked out on their own, and then they reported August 1st and got ready to play. The difference in that and now is when they went home before, at least they had access to weights. They could go to their high school and lift weights. So they haven't had that access, the ability to do that since they've been gone. But I think if we can get everybody back on campus in July, we'll be ready to roll. And because these guys have been working out, they've been running, they've been taking care of themselves. We lost spring practice, obviously, but if we can get them back, and then they're talking about, if we can do a 6-week return to play type deal, which would be the middle of July, and giving us 2 weeks there of NFL type OTAs where you can have walkthroughs and practices in shorts and that sort of thing, that I think would, go a long way in making up for some of the absences that we've had since they've been gone here. So we just want to play ball, and the players want to play, so I think that 4 week is probably a minimum, and 6 week would be ample, plenty enough time.
Teresa Walker from AP checking in today, and partially for Chris and partially for Stock. Chris, when mentioning moves to preserve all sports, have pay cuts been discussed? And Stock, for you, and well, both of you, has planning gotten into details of what a game trip might look like and any changes when we talk about that trip to Duke coming up? So, Chris, if you address the budget issue that she asked about first.
Yeah, and I think our fans need to keep in mind that we've had a lot of activity, and Stock alluded to it a little bit with the lack of camps and not having any summer camps. That's really impacted our assistant coaches and some of our volunteer coaches that really rely on a significant piece of their income through these camps. It not only impacts recruiting, but particularly our assistant coaches. So some of them, by that lack of opportunity, have had their income reduced. Our philosophy in the athletics department is that we're going to follow whatever the university decides to do, whether it's furloughs, whether it's layoffs, those kind of things. So we'll fit right into their payroll plan and what they determine's best for the university, and we'll follow those guidelines. I think that I don't have the authority just to have, pay cuts throughout our department without having HR and university approval. And my position is we'll fall right in line with what the university chooses to do on those kind of issues.
Stock, how do you see a road trip looking any different as far as how you go about your business?
I think it's probably a little premature right now to say that, but there'll definitely be either, you're going to have to check your athletes, either prior to leaving to go to the game to make sure everybody's healthy. There may be some stipulations when you fly that you can't have 3 in a row. Maybe it's, 2 to a 3-seat row. I know that's still not 6 feet apart, but there may be some stipulations on that. The buses, the same thing. I'm not sure, what the standards, the parameters are going to be on that. That's a little bit tougher there with, you try to put 60 people, more than that, 80 people on a bus. That's a pretty tight area. So you may have to take an extra bus or 2. I don't know, just to spread people out. but those are some of the things that we've got to be get a plan for and figure out.
Chris, does we had a question here from John, who, if it's the John Lynch, I think it is, he was a former trainer, and his question is about disinfecting and making training rooms and locker rooms safe. Does this COVID-19 change that process that is already in place very much?
Oh, absolutely. Particularly in the common touched areas, so I really visualize at practice that managers having to clean off balls, and whether it's footballs or basketballs and those kind of things in practice to reduce the chance of that kind of infection. Maybe at practice we got to clean the backboards and the rims in basketball and those kind of things. So we are going to do a thorough cleaning, and with our practices, the obvious areas are the training rooms and limited numbers in there, and then spacing out appointments so that they've got time to thoroughly disinfect, like the tables and the common areas that are touched in there. We're talking about perhaps staggering some locker rooms. Obviously the football locker room, that's the biggest squad size we have, and does everybody dress and undress together, or do we do it at different times, and those kind of things, and how do we implement our visitors locker room at the other side of the stadium, because that's an empty locker room that if we need social spacing, we can certainly take advantage of that space. So those are all kind of discussions we're having right now. And also kind of one of the interesting things that we're going to do is spread our weight room out and put some of the stations inside the football stadium in the concourse areas. So again, that we can avoid clusters of people and do a better job of social spacing.
It's kind of interesting that, a lot of times it's the little everyday things that we never took into account that are having to be looked at much closer during all of this.
Yeah, and it really the hygiene piece of it, and what we need to stress to everybody that kind of comes into the Murphy Center, particularly our student athletes and employees, is just the personal responsibility and the responsibility that we have to each other. And if you are running a fever, and we will check temperatures, but to not come and to wash your hands and to do those kind of things, and to avoid some of the situations that present a chance for this virus to emerge and be contagious.
Stock, when you get your players back on campus, will you encourage them to wear face coverings just to help protect each other, as they go about their daily business coming in and out of the building?
Yeah, Chip. I think they're going to have to, one, and two, they need to. So it's going to take all of us. It just can't be me or Chris or you. It's going to take every one of us, athletes, coaches, administrators, everybody. We've all got to do our part. So absolutely. And when they get back, and maybe I can figure out a way to do it before everybody gets back, and just kind of go through the protocol, what it's going to be. And we're a little bit kind of almost like guinea pigs. We're the ones that are coming back first. Football's coming back first, all across the country. So, we've got to make sure we're doing our part so there's not a setback. And it's going to take all of us buying in and doing whatever we can to keep everybody else healthy and safe.
Chris, Jonathan Harmon, who's a great Blue Raider alum, a little marketing idea. He's, and this kind of goes back to another photo that we've seen here recently from 1918 at a Georgia Tech game. He said it'd be kind of cool to see the full stadium wearing some sort of cool MT face covering that could bring a whole new element to blackout night.
That would be cool. We would like that, wouldn't we, Coach? We'd love to see a full stadium with the MT masks in it.
I think that'd be a good idea. Here's from the Sports Objective podcast, Bubba Rosenbaum. It says, Chris, there will, of course, be an increased emphasis on scheduling regionally, especially in Olympic sports. And there's been a lot of speculation by sports media around the country that it could result in some reconfiguration of the Sun Belt and Conference USA. Matter of fact, there was an article in the Hattiesburg paper earlier this week about that. Do you foresee any changes or any movement in that area with those two leagues that are both group of five and occupies a good portion of the same footprint?
Yeah, and I think that, first of all, let me do the Olympic sports piece first, and that there is a greater emphasis on the Olympic sports and really in all of our sports to have regional scheduling. So what I've done is kind of reached out to all the other Nashville ADs and said, you know, if we lose games, let's make each other the first phone call, because we're all within a stone's throw of each other, and these games make sense. So that's the first step, and then the next step is that if we get desperate for games, kind of where do you go to, and so you expand that region a little bit, and would you play a Western Kentucky as a non-conference game if you needed games, and those kind of regional games that make sense. That what we've done is some of our recommendations to reduce our regular seasons in some sports mirror what the Sun Belt's done, and we're waiting to kind of hear what the American is doing. So if you reduce a game, let's say you're playing a 10-game or a 12-game conference schedule, and you reduce it to 8 games, then that allows people to pick up games that are close to them. So if you get leagues to cooperate with that type of scheduling, then you have a better chance to save money and to do those kind of things. It gets a little bit complicated. The mergers and these kind of things get very, very complicated. You talk about different reserve funds in each conference. You talk about different television contracts. There's a lot of dynamics that go into this, and so we've got a lot of other issues that are kind of in front of us right now, and so that issue is because of its largeness and its complication is not quite on the front burner right now.
Yeah. Stock, as far as scheduling is concerned with football, there's a little bit of a different dynamic there because it's done a lot of times so far in advance. There's rumors out there about, what the league might do as far as a conference schedule to play those 8 games. Any clarity on any of that, or right now is it simply go as is with what the schedule is?
Right now it's go as is, Chip, and then there are some contingency talks. I wouldn't say plans, but there's contingency talks that if a team loses a game, we're scheduled to play Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech can't come, all right, we're going to try to make it up by playing this team, so there's talks about that if teams lose games, but nothing is in concrete, nothing's finalized.
And Chip, we've had a little bit of talks at our level too, and in fact, this morning we talked about it with the football coaches a little bit too, is that what happens if everybody's not ready to go, and the feeling inside our league is that the rest of us need to go, so we all want to play, and nobody wants to prevent somebody else from not playing if you can't play. And that's the feeling of the league and where we are.
Stock, this comes from Brian Harrell. He asked, has this time off been beneficial to you and your staff in any way? And what are some of the things you've worked on personally and professionally to be better during this time?
I don't think, to me, there's nothing that replaces face-to-face communication and contact. So to say we've gotten better, we hadn't gotten worse. I mean, anything like that. I mean, it's just a different way of communicating. And so we've done a good job of that. It's been miserable. I ain't gonna lie. It's just, sitting around, feeling like you're handcuffed a little bit, but everybody is. So, but no, I just think that probably the big thing I've learned or is this Zoom, I think is a great way to communicate with your signees after you've signed, freshman guys, as opposed, we used to send them a playbook and you kind of talk to them and go through it. Now I think with this, it gives you a better opportunity to do it face to face and walk them through it a little bit. So I will use Zoom to communicate with recruits, with signees. And then I think this Zoom has got a place. We used to FaceTime parents who could not come with a recruit on an official visit. I think this Zoom would replace FaceTime now, that we can walk them through everything that their son is seeing. So I think there's some things I've learned how to use Zoom with our players as well as, recruits and signees moving forward.
Chris, this from David. He says elite athletes are probably more likely to be asymptomatic since they're so healthy, and the numbers tend to bear that out with the number of cases and across the country and the number of deaths across the country. Will there be a baseline testing process of all student athletes as they get back on campus?
Yes. And some of it's going to depend on the advancement of the tests and those kind of things. So that's got to be part of our plan, is testing, tracing, isolation, all of those kind of things for our student athletes. So yes, that'll be a very, very big part of our plans.
I had a couple of questions that are very similar about tickets, season ticket. What is the current season ticket information? And have you all looked at any potential policies if the season is delayed or, hopefully not played? Hopefully that's not even, something we have to deal with.
Right. And Chip, the basically in our staff meeting on Monday, that James Kempfield gave us this report that basically to date, we are about 150 tickets behind last year's total, last year's pace. And when you break that number down, to this date, we had 218 open air suite tickets, open air and suite tickets that were renewed. And thus far this year, we only have 92 tickets that are renewed. So that's a difference of 126 tickets. So if you take our premium areas, which we've out of the equation, which we've extended those deadlines, that means we're really only about 24 tickets behind last year's pace. So I think our fans are showing some excitement for this, and I would certainly encourage our fans to renew. And if you haven't renewed in the last couple of years, college athletics needs you. We need you. I mean, there's no getting around the economics of this and how important it is for people to buy season tickets. And I would certainly encourage an Austin P graduate to buy Austin P tickets. I mean, if you love college football and you love your university, now's the time to demonstrate it if you're able to buy season tickets. And a lot of people might not be in a position to be able to buy them with the economics of this, but if you are, I would certainly encourage that. Our deadline is 5/29 to get your blackout shirt and those kind of things, but we'll be taking season ticket orders, obviously, all throughout the summer. But part of this is that we've got to have a liberal refund policy, and we were the first ones, one of the first ones to come out with it. And we came out with a refund on 4/1 on April the 1st. And basically, Chip, our philosophy is that we will refund any amount of the season ticket of the games that were played. So if we play 3/4 of our home games, then we'll refund that 25% and give you a choice of whether you want to apply it for next year's season tickets, whether you want to donate that to the BRAA, or you just want us to write you a check. And so we've got to recognize kind of the economics, the environment that we're in, and have really liberal refund policies. So as a consumer, I'd want to cover my risk on that. And so MTSU is willing to cover that risk.
Stock, Don and Hannah want to know: are all the recruits still on board to report, and are all their what is the feeling you get from families who'll be sending their sons from different parts of the country here to Middle Tennessee?
Yeah, everything's good right now, and part of my daily communication is communicating with our signees and the signees' parents, because this is the first time they're letting their baby go. And, you know, they didn't plan on this going on when they were going to have to let him go. So reassuring them that we have a plan for their safety, and I will never, you know, put their child in harm's way. I tell them that all the time, whether it's, you know, lightning on the field, we're not going to stay out there 1 second longer. We're going to get off the field. I'll never put your son in harm's way. So they're anxious to get here. They're all excited. They're chomping at the bit like everybody else. But everybody's scheduled to come in whenever I can tell them to come. You know, that's the big question right now is, when can I come? So most of them are in the process of finishing up high school right now, graduation, everything. Some already have some here in the next week or two. So everything's going good with that from that standpoint. And the parents are very understanding and appreciative of how we've communicated with them.
Stock, one of the new phrases, it's a two-word phrase that has become a much bigger part of the recruiting process the last few years, has been transfer portal. Have you seen anything as far as more activity in there? How is Middle Tennessee as far as being active in looking at young men that might be available?
Chip, there's more people in it every when this thing started. I mean, there's more people in it than places to go. You know, these guys, they think they can enter the portal and it's everybody in the world's got a spot for them, and it's not that case. And you know, you could look at, we get a list. I get a list every day by position. You know, and so we look at it. You know, we took 2 this year, Amir Razul and Martell Petaway, West Virginia and Florida State running backs. You know, so I look at it as a way to fill a need that you may have on your roster. We've got 2 scholarships left right now. And, you know, so we're looking at everything out there and how we can, you know, put these last 2 pieces of the puzzle together.
Chris, you were part of Dr. McPhee's cabinet, and I'm sure are involved in lots of meetings with him involving the university as a whole. Kind of give folks an update as far as the opening up of campus in general and moving toward week of welcome, because that's a huge week on campus that really kind of sets the tone for the whole fall semester.
Yeah, and Dr. McPhee's been terrific through this whole situation. I mean, that he has the ability to lead us with strains of optimism in very difficult situations, and so he's able to balance that very, very well. And then the vice presidents have been very engaged and through some very tough decision making that I've been a part of and being able to participate in, and just kind of the whole walking back and the number of details to kind of reopen campus and to have employees back and to make sure that at-risk employees and are okay, and whose immune system may be compromised, and those kind of entanglements that you do, it's just, you just can't flip a switch and everything comes open. And so his strategy kind of, and his administrative team's strategy of kind of a slower shutdown, I think was very effective. And then kind of the reopening is kind of the same blueprint, that it's going to be done by phases, with certain sets of employees. He's asked each division to kind of to give to him who we think are essential employees to come back in phase one, and then who's in phase two and who's in phase three. So it's been a good job. He organized a university-wide task force that was really a cross section of the entire university and some community members that I think their recommendations due to him next week in terms of what campus may look like next fall. And so he'll be able to take that information and make some better decisions on what will look like in the fall. And for instance, how occupied will all of our buildings, will there be classroom limitations, in terms of numbers and those kind of things.
We've had a couple of questions from different people, including Walter Chitwood. Middle Tennessee as a university and also as an athletic program, numerous international students and international student athletes. How has this affected them any differently than those who are from this area as far as going home and coming back?
Yeah, and I can handle that one, I think, because I'm not sure Rick has any in that situation. So we've had some kids that have not had the ability to get home, and whether it's financial or whether their borders are locked down. So we've had to kind of make sure that they're well taken care of here locally. And then we've had quite a bit of discussions with our coaches in terms of bringing some kids back and what kind of quarantine limitations will be there. So right now we're planning on, for international students, to have a 14-day quarantine upon their arrival back to Murfreesboro to make sure we're okay, and or a test, to make sure they're okay. So those are some of the details that we're sorting through right now. But the international kids, a lot of them have had a big sacrifice of not being able to go home and to see their loved ones through this crisis.
Stock had a question for you. What does your day look like during all of this? What is a normal day for you?
Probably,
other than being at the beach like you are.
Yeah, looking at your background, we're not sure how you can answer this.
Usually I'm talking to staff meetings or Conference USA meetings or MTSU meetings, usually up until noon, the morning to noon. I still try to get out and run at lunch and do that exercise. And then in the afternoon, I'll evaluate, watch high school tape, talk to recruits, that sort of thing. And then at night, I just cook on the grill.
What time?
Not today.
We had somebody ask a question. I want to get both of your take on it as we're down to about 5-6 minutes, and we'll try to cut it off at 1 o'clock. But Joe Buck was quoted the other day that he said it's almost a done deal if fans are not allowed in the stands that they might use fake crowd noise on television. Could either one of you see or hear or think about using fake noise in the stadium?
I could, just because I've done it. You simulate when you go to an LSU, you go to an Alabama, you go to, a big school, you pipe in that crowd noise music, during practice for a little bit, just to kind of get, communicate and everything from that standpoint. So I can see how it could be done.
Chris, could it be more like an arena league or an XFL type atmosphere if that happened?
Yeah, I could see it happening. And it depends on how many, how much social spacing restrictions you're operating under, and those kind of things, and how many fans are in. But yeah, I can see that as a real possibility.
Andy Womack wants to know if Cindy Massaro and Sarah Stockstill are ready for this to open back up and get you out of the house.
I can promise you Sarah is.
There's no doubt Cindy is as well. That she reminds me that I'm kind of in her space when I'm at home, and not at the Murphy Center.
Just an aside here, David Hall says he haven't seen the boats move in Stock's background in quite a while just yet. But for Chris from Josh, he wants to know how much interaction have you had with Mayor Ketron and Mayor McFarland as far as once this opens back up, getting the community back involved in a big way very quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's important to both mayors, and we are really fortunate because both of them are passionate MTSU fans, and recognize the value of the university as a whole and the athletic department as a department to the larger community, to Rutherford County, and to the city of Murfreesboro. So like we always have, we'll work hand in glove with the mayors, and I know I can count on their support.
As we again move toward wrapping up, one of the things that has happened has been a complete tack change in the social media area. Chris and Stock both. One thing I think has been maybe an unintended or an essential consequence with more content out there on different social media platforms is we've gotten to take a deeper dive and learn more about our student athletes with a lot of the feature stuff that we've seen and read than we might have happened in normal times.
Yeah, I mean, it's you need to put TikTok up there too, because TikTok, you can find a lot of stuff on TikTok.
Are you a TikToker?
I'm a TikTok creeper. No, I mean, it's been great. I mean, it's a way to, for our people to get to know, our players and our signees and all that they didn't get a chance to see this spring and so far this summer. But it's we do it. Mark Owens and Nathan and Tony and those guys do a fantastic job, promoting our student athletes on social media.
When we went into this thing on on March 14th, March 17th, kind of as we began shutting down, and that was a big emphasis, and was how do we communicate? Because we have to communicate with our fans and to our student athletes who read our content that we put out. So Mark and his team have done just a tremendous job. The amount of content that they've spilled out the last 2 months has been fantastic. So I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the replays of the Michigan State basketball game. I've enjoyed going down memory lane with the top 25 plays of the Rick Stockstill era and all of those kind of things. So I think it's been fun, and I've enjoyed it, and it's helped kind of fill a little bit of the void that we all feel as sports fans.
And we still got to have the Raiders' Choice Awards. That was awesome.
And you were great in that, Chip, and I need to say that publicly. But that was, again, we go back to the student athletes' mental health and helping them feel like they belong to something. And so that was an important initiative for us, is to have the Raiders' Choice Awards.
I want to see if you can budget for some new batteries for my jacket for next year. So we'll work on that. One area we want to talk a little bit about, I think we touched on it early, but the athletic or the academic piece for the student athletes. And part of what we have seen a great deal on social media has been the successes that have happened academically. The APR report, the Conference USA Honor Roll, the medalist in Conference USA. Stock, talk to us about that and the importance and satisfaction of what you saw from your team, and then we'll get Chris to address it from a department wide standpoint.
Yeah, first of all, I was really proud of our players because this was really hard for them. and especially the freshmen, because now all of a sudden, they've got 5 online classes. They're at home. They don't have access to Wi-Fi. And there were so many logistical issues that we dealt with. And, Wes Hofacker and Todd Wyant and Madison, they did just a fantastic job. But our players were super. I mean, our scholarship upperclassmen had a 3.2 semester. Our scholarship freshmen had a 2.8. So you talk about 100 players. I mean, that's unheard of, a college football team having a 3.0 GPA, so in a semester. So I was really proud of our guys. Did a great job. They deserve a lot of credit, but, Wes and Todd and Madison, they do also. And our coach, because we stayed.
Chris, a great streak going on with the APR in the total athletic program. And this year, four programs received public recognition.
Yeah, and they did, and it was really women's golf, softball, women's tennis, and men's cross country all received public recognition, which means they're in the top 10% in the country. And so we're really proud of those. I would like to echo what Rick said about all of our student athletes, that I think they did a tremendous job. Just some GPAs for this semester. This one astounds me. Our men's tennis team had a 3.94 team GPA. And so those guys got after it. Football with a 3.0 is really, really good. And I don't want to camouflage that a little bit too, Chip, that we do have some kids that don't do well in terms of the remote learning. And I thought we did a really good job with that. In some of those cases, the pass-fail option helped them and helped our GPAs. In some other cases, it might have hurt some GPAs. So that we were able to take advantage of that. And we need to figure out those that struggle with remote learning, how to reach them better. So we've still got things to learn on our end in terms of how we deliver the academics in these kind of situations.
Stock, I want to get your final word today. We're a lot of people who are on this as attendees are BRAA members. They are always important, but now more than ever as we move forward.
Yeah, it's like, like Chris said earlier, he said, if you're a fan of whatever school, we need you more now than ever. And everybody's begging, talking for sports to come back, football to come back. They can't wait. Let's can't wait and buy some tickets. And I'm excited about this team. I had a long conversation with, a magazine, coming out, in the summer and everything, going through our players. I'm excited about this team, excited about this season getting started. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. So buy your tickets, continue to support, Middle Tennessee, support your school, support the BRAA, and let's get ready to roll.
Chris, what's your final message to the fans today? I would imagine it still has to be one of patience and optimism right now.
Yeah, and to help us, we're in this together, and so the economics of this thing could be really helped by private support. And so we need you to be in the BRAA. We need you to buy the tickets, all of those kind of things. So and the pandemic has slowed down the BRAA. That in the month of March, we did about 70% less than what we did in the month of March the previous year. So we recognize that the total giving could be down, but April's looking a lot better. Looked a lot better than March did. May's looking better. So we're starting to see the increments as the economy's coming back, the giving's coming back. So I would hope our fans could really finish this thing strong in the back half of May and all of June. Our fiscal year ends on June 30th. And it's really critical that we finish the BRAA as strong as we possibly can.
We all have extra time now to ponder things, and Memorial Day weekend coming up, Coach. And you hope everyone has a great and safe weekend. You don't wish them a happy Memorial Day, but an appropriate Memorial Day weekend. And I know that's something. This is one of those holidays. This and Veterans Day that's close to your program.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've said it numerous times that, honoring the men and women that have served this country for a day isn't enough, so anything we can do just to honor them, recognize them, let them know we appreciate them, their families, everything that they've gone through and sacrificed. Those people have a special place in my heart. And I hope everybody does have a safe and great Memorial Day weekend.
Yep. Chris, we're going to do this probably in another 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, and I'm pleased with the number of questions, and so if the fans like this kind of format, then let us know if this time works best for you. Let us know. We had the big debate about having it at noon or like at 5 or 6 o'clock, and a lot of the experts told us noon might be the best time to do it. So let us know. Give us some feedback if you like this kind of format.
Stock, go ahead and send us the address. We'll be over there later and bring some sunscreen for you for your time at the beach. Thanks for taking some time today.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chip.
Go
Thanks,
Blue Raiders. Let's go, baby.
Let's go
That's
get
right.
them.
Let's get it. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank all of you for attending, sending in your questions. We'll have another one of these coming up in 3 or 4 weeks, so stay tuned with us. Have a great weekend.